Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at GamesRadar, and I am here in the Final Fantasy Theater
This is
at Eidos, Montreal. But we're not talking about Final Fantasy, although this room does make me wish that I had spiky hair. We are talking with Jacques Belletette, the Executive Artistic Director on Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. Jonathan, I do want to just start right here. Triangles.
Yes.
You have many triangles in your game.
Yes.
Where do you guys invest in triangle production?
First we invest in pixels.
the pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, you start with pixels.
We order shit tons of pixels and then we make triangles out of them.
And you make triangles out of them. So bullshit aside.
Yeah.
The real question is, I'm kind of fascinated by the motif that surrounds Deus Ex, and I'm wondering where did that start? Yeah, in sort of coming up with the visual design of Human Revolution, because it is very, very distinctive.
Thank you. That was the whole goal when we started, right? So obviously we knew it was a cyberpunk game, and you know there's a whole aesthetics that comes with cyberpunk. And I remember back, in 2007 when we started Human Revolution, we asked ourselves, at that point the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 had been out for a little while, not too long, and we were like, hey, with this power now we could probably replicate Blade Runner real time almost as is, so that's pretty cool. But that wouldn't say much about us as artists, right? We'd just be replicating the epitome of cyberpunk. Fair enough, but that wouldn't be our thing. So we said we need to add something to that. So I was researching stuff, and then the whole Renaissance thing, right? That we ended up calling the cyber Renaissance, the analogy with the Renaissance, and the fact that the Renaissance is almost like the stepping stone to a full transhumanist era, because this is when we first started analyzing the human machine, the human body, how it functions, and in order to upgrade a system, first you need to understand how that system functions, at its most basic. So that, and then the myth of Icarus and all that kind of stuff. And when I was trying to create an aesthetics by blending cyberpunk and the Renaissance era, you start kind of getting into, during the Renaissance era, it was all about the mathematics and perspective and geometry and the scientific method and all these new discoveries and the humanistic thoughts and whatever. And then you start seeing patterns emerging, right? All these mathematical drawings and all, the Michelangelo stuff, the Leonardo stuff, and a whole bunch of others. And then these things end up creating triangles all the time. And we were trying to see, there are some of the basic Renaissance patterns and Baroque patterns that we use as is, or just slightly transformed in the game, but they still look very antique, and that was the idea. But we needed to find a way to use them more in a more contemporary way for the kind of the global visual message of the game, and that's when kind of the triangle started emerging out of that. It's more modern looking. It's a little more, like I said, contemporary art, and it's still mathematics, and it's still very much Renaissance, and also the triangle, pyramid, Illuminati, blah 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 blah. So the whole thing became
thematically complete,
very holistic. Yeah, exactly.
So this is a conversation you and I had shortly after Human Revolution came out. I was asking you about how you ended up taking spaces like Detroit that were, in reality, very constrained physically. You couldn't go a lot of places. Yet it still felt like a big city. It felt like a place that was vast, even though Adam Jensen lived right down the street from a demilitarized zone.
Yeah, everybody lived right down the street of everything.
Touche. But you told me that some of the tricks that you did to make it feel vast was a collection of visual and audio tricks. It would be, making cars go by in the background and
hearing dog barks.
Hearing a dog bark. You are dealing with much more powerful technology now than you were with Human Revolution. So let's start with, what are you doing differently in terms of how you think about the scale of this world? Are you now reconsidering the sort of physical vastness of it, or are you making new tricks?
See, the thing with new tech, it's always the same thing. Is you add, and you end up with the same problems anyway, right?
Oh, right.
It's like you just realize that you kind of end up in the same constraints all over again. So, maps in video games haven't gotten bigger since the mid-90s, really. No, I'm just joking. No, but what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, because you start leveraging...
Everything is the same as in Hexen.
Yeah, as in Hexen, yeah, which is, I guess it's a good reference. But, it could have been worse than that. But I guess, yeah, because you start leveraging everything, right? Your polys, your shaders, your effects, your characters, whatever, animations. You end up kind of trapped in a box rather rapidly once again, even though you have new tech. And what I mean by box, I don't mean, it's not a metaphor for the city that we're in a box, not that at all. I just mean that, the constraints are always there. Your loading is always there. Your streaming is always there. The tricks that you need to use to make that work are always there. They're never going to leave. So, I mean, what I think that we have this time around, and that's a bit maybe spinning your question a little bit, because it's not as much about size, but we're so much more in control of what made our city hubs work well or not well for whatever reasons in human revolution. Nothing is ever perfect. We know what our mistakes were. We know what the great calls were, and I think because of that, our city hubs and Mankind Divided are much more potent on all levels. You know what I mean? So size might be a thing, but their flow, you know what I mean? They're multi-paths, how you're perceiving the background, how you have all these little visual cues that are attracting you from the background to get somewhere, how we're mixing the old and the new. Because if we take Prague, for example, Detroit is maybe, I don't know, maybe 200 years Detroit, 250 years, I don't know.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know the history.
No.
To that, even though we studied Detroit quite a bit to make Human Revolution, sadly, I don't remember when it was founded. But Prague is probably 1,500 years old or something.
I was going to say, you have a couple thousand years to work with.
Yeah, exactly. So that old and new was even trickier now to pull off right, and we couldn't have done it as good as, because what you guys have played yesterday is a very, very minute portion of the map, and all this crazy old versus new thing is really gets out of control later into the map, and it's just the guys have done such an amazing work. So all this to say that I think that this new technology helped quite a bit, but what helped us really make the maps better and working so much better with all our mechanics and in Human Revolution is because this time around we knew what we were doing.
As opposed to just sort of winging it.
Yeah, just winging it like we did last time and just hoping for the best. But no, it's just tech is one thing, but expertise is so much more important, and I think that's what we had this time around.
Playing through that little chunk of Prague, it was interesting because you can feel this very tangible difference between that and Detroit and Human Revolution and Shanghai. Shanghai, not Beijing, right?
It was Shanghai.
It was Shanghai.
I mean, it was. We ended up choosing an island. It's just above Shanghai, which is Hangsha. But we said we're going to Shanghai. Yeah.
And those places, you did get that cyberpunk feel. They felt like tangibly changed cities.
No.
You walk outside of Seraph Industries, and there's that sort of bizarre futurist sculpture sitting right outside.
And in Hangsha, there's a roof above your head. That's kind of hard to think you're not in the future with that, So that
Prague feels very present day. It feels very, very contemporary. Yes, there are robots stomping around, but you're still dealing with a cobblestone street. You still walk into a theater with wooden floors.
Of course.
How do you sort of sit there and hold yourself back from hitting an environment with the futurist stick? Yeah. Like, how do you sit there and say, we don't want to just overdo it. We don't want genetically modified owls flying around.
Exactly. I mean, we have done this, not the owls, but going crazy or crazier with the futuristic stuff.
Right.
Like I said, the part of Prague that you guys have played yesterday is just a small part, and it's the part that's it's one of the parts that are the least affected by what I call the cyberpunk add-ons. Okay, like because cyberpunk is always, it's near future, right? It's not 1,000 years. It's always like 20, 30, 50 years. So it's not like society has been erased and then something new has been built over the ashes, right? It's just things being added to what's already existing. So all this to say that there are parts of the game, there are parts of and big chunks of the Prague City Hub that really have some great clashes between the centuries old architecture and the cobblestone and all that, with some really insane buildings next to it. And when I say insane buildings or architecture or equipment or whatever you want to call it, um, it's not just because it looks crazy futuristic. It also because sometimes it just looks like just really cool, contemporary art or contemporary architecture. That if you look, if you really indulge into looking at where architecture is going now, it's already completely out of this world, right? If you look at some of the craziest things that are being built now, and if you look at what's projected for the next 10, 15, 20 years, it beats any sci-fi movies out there, like it's really insane. So by just putting this out there, it already makes your world look, um, well, futuristic and credible at the same time, because you've looked at what we're building in the world for real. Um, so anyway, all this to say that this clash is totally there. You will get to lots of places in the city hub where it's like, okay, here's a little medieval house or whatever building, and then it's like, holy crap, like this thing just springing out of the future, I guess.
This is an odd one, but walking around in Human Revolution and now Mankind Divided, I don't think that there's a single ugly person left in the world. Everybody is so good looking.
Even in Human Revolution,
Even in Human Revolution,
the NPCs we had,
the NPC, like
we didn't play
everybody,
the same game.
everybody is like sort of sexy, and everybody has a keen fashion sense. Even
Yeah,
your random
that is true,
thug,
yeah.
your random thug is sort of done up in a
Yeah.
fashionable hoodie.
That's true.
He's got a cool scarf. Yeah,
What is it? What's that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger there? It's Hero, whatever. What's his movie there? The Last Action Hero. Is that
Last
it?
Action Hero,
Or is it this one,
right,
or
yeah.
is it the one where?
No, he's like in
And
the
then
Hollywood.
They
Yeah.
walk into the
Why is
video
everybody
store
so
and all the
good
girls
looking?
are like super hot.
Yeah.
No, that was my reference.
Is
No.
Last Action Hero philosophy?
Yeah.
Is Adam Jensen stuck
No,
in a virtual
Last
reality?
Action Hero is a philosophy for the entire game, really. All the pillars,
It's all
everything.
there.
It's all there. Yeah.
Which is to say that eventually a cartoon cat will show up and start interacting with them. In
Interview
serious-
done.
The end.
The end. Yeah. No. Okay. Well, first of all, let me clarify the the beautiful people in HR. I mean, it's all my fault. I take all the blame for how not really uh, good the NPCs are, because I wanted, and you'll see where I'm getting with that. I wanted to have a really stylized game. I don't want to have photorealism. I want to have like something that looks more like a graphic novel or
Yes.
something like that. And pushing for like stylization can and is usually harder to do than photorealism. And the way that it ended up being done on the NPCs in HR was really weird and often didn't work really well. And it's 100% my fault. It's not. It's none of the artists who have worked on the game. So that's why I wouldn't say that most of the NPCs were good looking. In Mankind Divided, it works really really well now. The guys have done. They've kind of taken where I had made mistakes and made it much better now. However, like you're saying, the fashion is really present. Everybody's
Yeah.
quite fashion. And you still got someone who's like wearing jeans and a t-shirt and whatever. But yeah, I guess it just stems for first of all my personal enjoyment of fashion and garments in general. And it's something that in 2007 was not really present in video games.
It really wasn't.
It really wasn't, and it's actually pretty amazing how hard, how much we had to push to get this done the way that it was done in HR. And I think we've affected quite. I mean, I think it had an impact in the industry to some degree. I don't think we're the sole reason why it's more widespread now. But I think now you look at games and the having proper clothes and proper fashion or proper, even though if it's your imagination, imagining the fashion in a proper way is a lot more present now. And also us, like I said for the City Hub earlier in your questions, we control that much more better than in the Human Revolution this time around. So it probably shows even more. Like people are probably even more fashionable in a Mankind Divided. It's a different type of fashion. It's not the cyber renaissance anymore, because the world it's a different state. It's what we call the corporate feudalism, and so it's darker. It's more inspired by the medieval era than the Renaissance. But it was easier to do because now we understand how to control these variables a lot better.
It's tricky to cover a 2-year span and say like, oh, 2 years have passed since this horrible thing happened, and say, well, look at the way it's changed the aesthetics of the world. That's you can do destruction. You've shown us Dubai at the very beginning of the game, and like this is a place ravaged by what ended up happening at the end of the first game, and that makes sense. But making the shift from all of these sort of very Renaissance themed fashions and architectural motifs to something that is more feudal and sort of destructive.
In 2 years.
In 2 years. That's tricky. How do you make that feel natural?
I don't know. We never really thought of it that way. I guess. I mean, a lot's gonna happen. How people dress and how people wear their stuff in 2 years. I mean, we see it all the time. It is a bit of a short time, definitely. But I guess we just went along with it. We needed to get into our themes, get into our motifs, have everything kind of interflowing within each other. To create this credible, tangible image of our world. And I think that's what was the most important thing for us. And I mean, maybe if it would have been like 3 months, that there's no way it would have been possible. But I guess 2 years is within the boundaries of like, maybe it's a little short, but it's also not unbelievable.
See, 2 years ago, the thing was epaulettes on men's shirts.
Yeah, was that 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago. It was epaulettes on everything.
Yeah.
And now all of my shirts with epaulettes look stupid.
I know.
I look like I'm wearing some kind of costume from Indiana Jones. It's not cool.
I know. Me, my epaulettes were on my knees. It was the knee pad stuff. And but I was the only one anyway. But yeah.
So this is my last question. You don't have to answer this. It's a little weird, but your last name, you informed me, Belletette, means pretty head.
Yeah, Bell means it's the feminine of pretty, and masculine is beau. Bell is because Tete is a feminine word, and Tete means head. And it's my dad's last name. Yeah.
Is there going to be an achievement? Is there going to be a trophy? Is there ever a point in Mankind Divided where you are gifted with the reward or the title of pretty head?
Yes.
Yes. I'm so happy. Yeah. Everybody,
I gotta go make it.
go put it in the game right now. This is Jonathan Jacques Belletette. His game, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, will be out in February 2016. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes, thanks, man.
That was a pretty sweet video, right? If you want to see more, go to GamesRadar's YouTube page over here. Or if you want to read, maybe up your game a little bit, go to GamesRadar.com.